All right, everybody. It's me, Mike Minotti from the Game Mess. I'm going to be ranking home consoles here, specifically the major home consoles from my life. So, when I say major home consoles, that's kind of my way of being like, I'm not going to be cute. I'm not going to talk about the 3DO and like the CDI, even stuff like the Sega CD. And from my life, that means NES and onward, right? Like, I had no memory. I had no history with your ColecoVisions, your Intellivisions, all the Visions, your Ataris. So it's basically all this major Sega, Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation consoles, home consoles. So I'm not doing portables. We'll maybe like talk about some of the exceptions. I don't know, but let's get going here because there's a lot of consoles to do. And the first one would be the Nintendo Enter. That's how you spell that. Entertainment System. And so this is my first console. Uh, and it was just so really well timed with me because I was just this really young kid. We had an NES. Everyone had an NES. It was the big thing. So this kind of rebooted the whole industry, and I felt like I got to grow up alongside all of that happening. It was super fun. And the NES it's still just so video gamey, right? When we say video games, I so often just picture an NES. I picture that square controller, all the grays and the reds. So many fantastic games. All the Marios, your Legend of Zelda, all the Mega Mans, the Castlevanias, basically everything by Nintendo, Capcom, and Konami was pretty fantastic on here. It's some other Sunsoft did some good stuff. Your Blaster Masters and what have you. A lot of good games for a really simple system, right? So this is our baseline right now. So going forward, we're going to be asking a lot: is this console better or worse than the NES? Now, I'm not going to talk about the Master System. It wasn't that big a deal over here in the US. I never even knew the Master System existed until the Sega Master System, by the way, until like after the fact, right? I never owned a Master System. I played some games. I am not in a position to fairly judge the Master System. I mean, it would probably be lower ish, right? So I want to play more Master System games. I do. But even then, I'll be playing ROMs, right? I will never have that full Master System experience of actually owning a Master System. All these other consoles I've owned, some impact or another. So, no Master System, but that does take us to the Sega Genesis. I'm going to be going chronologically as best as I can remember here. Yep. Emojis. Get out of here with that. Sega Genesis. I think as we all learned when me and Jeff were drafting our 16-bit consoles. Maybe I like the Sega Genesis more than most. I don't know. I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna be splitting. I'll do a handheld different list at some other point, Marinu. Although won't be as many, but it'll be fun. God, Sega Genesis rules. I love its whole vibe. It's just a slick system. It feels so fast, right? Like that was the thing. That's why blast processing isn't actually a thing, but it did have like a good CPU. So it was able to scroll games really fast. It just kind of felt really silky smooth on it. Now I refuse to ever call it the Mega Drive. So yeah, so many fantastic games on that. All the Sonics, even the bad Sonics I like. Right, I even like Sonic Spinball and Sonic 3D Blast. I know, but Streets of Rage 2, all these all timers, Shinobi 3. Contra Hardcore, Castlevania Bloodlines, Gunstar Heroes. Even like the okay games on the Genesis just have a vibe to them, like Columns. Like, why does Columns kind of hit? Even Altered Beast, right? Altered Beast isn't that great. Still kind of like playing Altered Beast though. So, God, this is hard. This is actually really hard if I like the Genesis more than the NES. I think a lot of people would not. I think I do though. I think I like the Genesis more than I like the NES. They're both very good systems. None of these systems are going to be bad, right? It's not like my bottom system is going to be a bad system here, but I liked the Sega Genesis a lot. I still play those games a ton. Out of all the NSO consoles, right? Out of all those libraries, the Genesis one is the one I go into a lot still. Those are still just really fun games to play. I mean, NES also. A lot of NES games though have aged. It's a really big library with a lot of bad games. You could say that about the Genesis also, I guess. But I don't know. There's just more hits for me with the Genesis. And there's a lot more games on the Genesis that don't just have better versions later. A lot of NES games just have better versions on Super Nintendo, right? They do. Speaking of which, I know it's the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I just call it the Super Nintendo. I don't call it the SNES. I don't call it the SNES. Sometimes I do, I guess. But I usually just call it the Super Nintendo. Yeah, sports games also a big deal on Genesis. But here's the Super Nintendo, the other 16-bit console of the time. One of the all-time great libraries, right? A lot of like all-time great games on here. Your Super Metroids, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Islands, Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger, Fallout 56. The JRPG factor, as we were all reminded of recently, very big with the Super Nintendo. It's when that genre really seemed to break out, especially in the U.S. I mean, look, I love the Genesis. Super Nintendo is better. It is. I kind of like the vibe of the Genesis more, but the Super Nintendo's library is just insane. It just has so many, again, all time great games. Love that thing. Gosh. So Super Nintendo's our new number one right now. No Commodore 64. I never had a Commodore 64. Yeah. Also, yes, I like the Super Nintendo looks a lot better than the Super Famicom, right? I like the gray and purple color schemes. Very good, very good. Yeah, it just has a better vibe. I agree, and like I almost like going back to a lot of Genesis games more, but the Super Nintendo is so prestigious, right? Right. And Mode 7 was cool, and yeah, it's just a good system. Okay, now we have some less heavy hitters. This next, so I'm not doing like the add-ons. I'm not doing Sega CD or the 32X, right? I'm not doing that. So we have Sega Saturn as the next major console by my calculations. We're not gonna do TurboGrafx. Actually, I did have a TurboGrafx. Look, it'll be at the bottom. I like it, but not very many games. So if you're wondering where the TurboGrafx would be, I'm gonna mostly stick to Sega, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. By mostly, I mean entirely. Sega Saturn. I love the Sega Saturn despite itself. I actually owned a Jaguar, but still, again, it would be at the bottom. Gosh, the Sega Saturn. I wanted more for it. I wished better for it because it was cool. Again, a good vibe. It did really pretty 2D games, right? A stall on that thing is still really memorable to me. Those Dragon Force games, by 2D, even just like 2D graphics with the pixels. And even when it did do 3D, I know it's supposed to be really hard for the system, but like the Panzer Dragoon games absolutely rule. There's some really good arcade ports like Sega Rally and Virtual Fighter 2, and then there's some not so good Sega arcade ports, right? Sometimes you didn't know what you're getting with the Saturn. So as much as I love the Saturn, it obviously had a short life. It didn't have a very big library. It struggled. It struggled. So I love going to the Saturn still, but I'm not gonna pretend that it's better than these like all-time great consoles. All right, I just can't. So that would actually bring us to the Sony PlayStation. Sony PlayStation. Let's just say PlayStation. I'm not gonna say the Sony PlayStation 3, right? The PlayStation. Man, I've been on a big PlayStation kick lately, huh? Right? You all been seeing that if you've been watching this channel. And if I hadn't done that recently, maybe PlayStation would be lower. But I really enjoyed playing PlayStation games recently. I think a lot of them have held up better than I remembered or even expected. Some of them are still kind of weird. Maybe it depends on your tolerance for those kind of things. I played the original Resident Evil, so fantastic. Again, a lot of all-time great games. Like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid. The Gran Turismo series is starting here. A lot of like fun things that time kind of has forgotten a little bit, like your Jet Motos, your Twisted Metals, your Siphon filters, Fear Effects. Even like a lot of room for hidden gems, though. I don't know if Einhander's a hidden gem, but kind of, right? There's just a lot. There's a lot of games for the PlayStation, which means there's a lot of shovelware. That's right. And there's a lot of bad games also. Even the bad games are kind of charming in a weird way on the PlayStation. I like the way 3D graphics look on the PlayStation, even when it's like technically like bad like the texture warping and stuff. It's kind of weirdly charming to me. Also, another very good JRPG system. The three major Final Fantasies plus tactics. Your Suikoden's, Legend of Dragoon, all sorts of JRPGs on this thing. Wild Arms. Hmm. It's better than the Saturn. I don't like it more than the Genesis or Nintendo. My big question is, do I like it more than the NES? And it seems kind of messed up to say that I do, but like I think I might. It's just I don't know. PlayStation games have been really fun lately. It's just something about that was such a fun era. It was the Wild West in terms of figuring out 3D games, and sometimes you would really mess up and like make a Bubsy 3D, but sometimes you'd make a Crash Bandicoot or a Spyro or a Metal Gear Solid or Ridge Racer 4. And it's just I don't know. It's like awesome. It's just awesome. And even like when they kind of faltered a bit, it's just really interesting to see. Like they had to invent the dual analog controller halfway through this generation, right? Yeah, even there are good 2D games on here still. You have Symphony of the Night, Rip Band. Yeah, it feels bad. It'll feel. I think Nintendo Entertainment System is not going to look low on the list later once we get some other things below here. I like the Nintendo 64, which I'm not a big Nintendo 64 guy. I'm really not. I mean, it has some great games like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Mario 64, Star Fox, and all the rare stuff. Your Banjo Kazooie's. I don't like GoldenEye, but that's just me. I don't know. Outside of that stuff, it's a small library. It's the games are kind of ugly. Even then, they were kind of ugly, right? Compared to, in a lot of cases, compared to what PlayStation was doing, especially what PC games were doing. The four controller ports was cool, and it was great for games like Mario Party and Mario Kart and GoldenEye. Hmm. Uh, it's gonna be on the bottom of my list for now. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be in the bottom forever. Yeah, it has like five really good games, and then there's a lot of not bad games. Like, look, I like Blast Core. I think when people act like Blast Core is some all time great like jam, like Blast Core is good for what it was. But like other weird stuff like Body Harvest, like yeah, that's nice. I guess that's fine. So Nintendo 64 doesn't really do it for me. It's just not my thing. It's worse than the Saturn. I know that seems messed up to say it's worse than the Saturn, and that is real. That is a me thing. That is me, especially at that point in my life. I was such a Sega guy. But like, if you ask me right now, which system and its library would I pick over the other if I could never have the other one again, even though it would mean I could never play Mario 64 again? Like, give me the Sega Saturn. I just think the Saturn's more interesting. It's fucked up. I agree. I agree. It is. It is. But I mean, like, look, it was a mistake going with cartridges then, right? Because all these games were like getting more cinematic and doing things with music, like putting full music tracks on there, putting full videos on there. Like, think about whenever they would have to port a PlayStation game into Nintendo 64 and how it was just worse. Like Mega Man Legends becoming Mega Man 64, just worse. Resident Evil 2, right? Compare that, or Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, compare those two versions. It's just worse. Like, there's some games that I guess were better on 64, like Glover. But great, right? So, yeah, sorry, Nintendo 64. It's just not like I like the Nintendo 64 still. Right? Again, there's no bad consoles probably on this list. There are ups and downs. I still like playing Nintendo 64 games, and there's like others I'm not mentioning, but probably should before Jeff comes in here yells at me. Like Wave Race 64 is fantastic. 1080 is a lot of fun. I like Pokemon Puzzle League a lot. There are a lot of very good games, but there's just something about the Nintendo 64 that I never jives with. Don't tell MVG. That does bring us to the Sega Dreamcast next, huh? I love the Sega Dreamcast actually. It's like the Saturn in terms of Paper Mario's a good game. You're right, Walken. It's like the Saturn in that I wanted more for it, but I liked the Dreamcast more than I even ever liked the Saturn. Like the Saturn, I understand why it failed. It's frustrating with the Dreamcast because it was doing so many things right. It was such a good console. Like if I could really only think of one flaw, it's that the controller didn't have two analog sticks, which would have really hurt it if the console lasted any longer than it did, right? But yeah, there's so many weird games for the Dreamcast, and I love that about it. Like like Seaman, and Space Channel 5. But there's like then really good games like Jet Jet Grind Radio, Samba de Amigo, excuse me, Fancy Star Online. The Sega sports games were good. Hydro Thunder was good on there. You're right. Yeah, I even forget about like Hydro Thunder or Episode 1 Racer. Soul Calibur. God, Soul Calibur ruled. One of the best launch games ever. Power Stone and Power Stone 2. Like, I can't believe how many good games are on this system, considering it was only around for 2 years. It's kind of messed up. I even like the Sonic Adventure games. They're a lot of fun. Really good arcade ports. Freaking God, I love Marvel's Capcom 2. Marvel's Capcom 2 is so much fun. And it was just, it worked so well on here. Same thing with Third Strike. A lot of good fighting games, right? Yeah, like, Project Justice and stuff like that. The VMU was just really cool. The fact that you could do online gaming already. I played a lot of Fancy Star Online back then with that, and it was super fun. I even had the keyboard. I love the Dreamcast. I wish there's more with the Dreamcast. Like I'm gonna even yeah, I like it better than the PlayStation. Do I like it better than I'm not gonna say it's better than the Super Nintendo. It's nuts. I probably can't say it's better than the Genesis either. I guess that's nuts. But man, I like the Dreamcast. Man, Cannon Spike, the Dynamite Cop. I don't know. Maybe I do. It's just such a cool system, man. It's so much fun. Even just looking at the Dreamcast still makes me feel good. I guess that's true about the Genesis. We'll keep it here for now. I think my heart is saying 3. It's very high. For a system that again only lasted for 2 years and ultimately failed. It's incredible how good it was. Yeah, JRPG struggled a little bit, but it still had like Grandia 2 and it still had Skies of Arcadia. It still had some good ones. Not a ton. Yeah, PlayStation 1 kills on a JRPGs. PlayStation 1 is probably analytically a better system for sure. Like that's absolutely right. Again, though, like I had a really soft spot for Sega at this point in my life. Which is why it took me a long time to appreciate the PlayStation 2 because I was a bitter child who basically blamed it for killing the Dreamcast. It wasn't like it's a sentient being and it's its fault, and I had to punish it. But it took me a while to accept how great the PlayStation 2 was, and it was really great. It was very, very good. It has an incredible library, maybe the best library of all time, in terms of just all out fantastic games. Again, JRPGs are insane on it. Yeah, Final Fantasy 10, Final Fantasy 12, um, the Shadow Hearts, uh, well, just tons of good stuff. And then all time like great games like Metal Gear Solid 3, the Grand Theft Auto trilogy that was on there, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I really still associate those games with this system, to be honest. And the DVD player thing was actually pretty cool back then. That was a big deal. Even though like there's like the system has some obvious shortcomings, it's not that powerful. Like a lot of multi-platform games just looked worse on the PlayStation 2. They do, and having only 2 controller ports was annoying when pretty much all of its competitors had 4. Yeah, it didn't matter because it still just had so many good games. The Ratchet and Clanks, the Jack and Daxters, your Sly Coopers. It somehow also had all these great 3D platformers. Even just like some of like, there's so many quote unquote hidden gems again because the console library is so big. Or games that just like you don't immediately think about that are really good, like your Mark of Krees, your Dark Cloud 2s. Oh God, God of War was on here. God of War was such a big deal when that came out. God of War 2. Odin Sphere ruled. Yeah, Odin Sphere is good. Um, Technically, Persona 4 was a PlayStation 2 game, right? Which is funny to think about now. First video game I ever reviewed was a PlayStation 2 game. It was some very horny JRPG, Artanelico 2. Incredibly horny. Not bad, though. A lot of typos in its text, which was funny. It's got Kingdom Hearts. I like Kingdom Hearts. I like Kingdom Hearts a lot. So here's what's best up. It's better than the PlayStation. Man, hey, Darkest Light. Thank you for following. I appreciate it. I should probably move the alert box down where people can actually read this. There we go. I'm kind of it's hard because I like I like the Dreamcast so much, and again, I was kind of bitter about the system for a long time. I feel like kind of a fraud trying to say that the Dreamcast is better than the PlayStation 2. I just don't know how I can make that case. I just don't. The library just can't be matched. Like there's like a part of me that wants to, but it'd be ridiculous. Uh, and I don't know if I could say it's probably better than the Genesis. Even it is. I like the Genesis a lot, but the PlayStation 2 is just ridiculous. I'm not gonna put it above Super Nintendo. I don't think. I'm thinking harder. No, no. I think Super Nintendo's safe at the top for now. PlayStation 2 though is ridiculous. It's a console I still would like to have around, just play all the time. Okay. What's next? Uh Thank you, Darkest. All right. Oh, hey, this thing. The Nintendo GameCube. Let's just call it the GameCube. Nintendo GameCube sounds weird. Ah, I think you guys know I like the GameCube a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. And it does not have the library of the PlayStation 2. It just doesn't. And yet, it's got a really good library. It's got a lot of games that just aren't on PlayStation 2 because they're obviously like Nintendo exclusives, right? So like there are so many good Nintendo games on the system. And like of course it's gonna have good Nintendo games. It has so many more good Nintendo games than even the Nintendo 64 has. Wind Waker, it's Twilight Princess also. Mario Sunshine's not as good as 64, but still a good game. But then Metroid Prime, Smash Brothers Melee, yeah, Prime 2 also. Uh, like some ones that people don't talk about as much, like Wario World, Star Fox Assault's good. Yeah, maybe that's hard for people to accept, but it's true. It was it was portable. It had a handle. I love the way the system looks, man. I love the handle. I love its big boxy shape. I love its boot up. I love everything about its aesthetics. I love the controller. Everything about this console makes me happy. Yeah, incredible Capcom support with like Beautiful Joe and Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil. The remake is so good, as I discovered last year. Yeah, a lot of these games still look good on this system, man. And when they would port some of those games to PlayStation 2 later, they just wouldn't be as good, right? Uh, it doesn't have a ton of JRPGs, but still has some good ones, like your Bite Kaitoses and Tales of Symphonia, stuff like that. I mean, look, yeah. Obviously, I don't know why. Just sometimes you like something so much that even when it's kind of bad, you still like it. I say this about Star Trek a lot. Like I used to like Star Trek so much, specifically like '90s era Star Trek, that even when an episode was clearly bad and stupid, I would still enjoy it. It would still like make me happy somehow, right? Like, oh, here's an episode where two characters get turned into lizards and make lizard babies. That's dumb. Awful episode. Still kind of feel happy watching it. And I'm like that with the GameCube. Like you saw me when I was playing that Mary Kate and Ashley Mario Party clone. Like I was still having a great time for some reason. I don't know what it is about this system. I can't even entirely put it into words, but I love it. It's top. I like it. Super Nintendo. I probably concede it has a better library. Probably. I don't think its aesthetics are as good. I don't think its controller is as good. There's just something about the GameCube. I love it. All right, Xbox. First Xbox is weird. People don't. I feel like a lot of people don't remember the original Xbox had a lifespan of 4 years. That was it before the Xbox 360 came along. Right? It was kind of bizarre. That's funny. Obvious. I knew somebody would know. And in those 4 years, it did a lot. We had Halo was a giant deal. You had Halo 2. Knights of the Republic is probably my favorite game on the console. This was kind of the coming out party for Western RPGs in general because of Knights of the Old Republic and Morrowind. That kind of gave us a glimpse of the future. There's a lot of glimpses of the future with the original Xbox, right? With how important first-person shooters are going to be, how important Western RPGs are going to be, and then how important online gaming is going to be. That's a big one. Crimson Skies on their rules. There's a lot of games, and there are a lot of Games that were multi-platform that are actually just better on the Xbox. It's true. And yet, like, I don't love it, right? I mean, it is a smaller library. Um, again, I talk about vibes a lot. Its vibes don't do a whole lot for me. It's a little plain. The it's the only console on here that had to remake its controller, right? Like I know that PlayStation had the DualShock, but that was because there's new features. They had to re-release the controller because the first one was bad. So they had to redesign it or just bring us the Japanese one, whatever it was, right? The Mark S or what have you. Yeah, small, not very many exclusives, but what was there was good. It's a good system, but I don't love it. I guess my question is, do I like it more than its own 64? That's basically it. It's not going to be better than the Saturn, which sounds kind of messed up. Yeah, the DualShock gave us Ape Escape. I know, I get right. It seems weird that I love the Dreamcast and hate the Xbox because a lot of people like they're so similar, and yet, like, it just doesn't hit the same way. Even with those Sega games, like Panzer Dragoon Orta doesn't really work for me. Like, even I know it's Saturn, but like those did. Jet Grind Radio Future is actually pretty great though. I do like Jet Grind Radio Future or Jet Set Radio Future a lot. Excuse me. Yeah, but that's just an excuse, Matt. That's just an excuse. I don't know. I think people are gonna be mad at me no matter what. Maybe Nintendo 64 wins just because of Mario 64. I don't think Xbox has a game as good as Mario 64. I mean, obviously, like, we know I'm not a giant Halo guy, right? So maybe that's what hurts it for me. Not being a big Halo. I wasn't even a big Splinter Cell person too, which I feel like are like the next beloved games. Ninja Gaiden's very good. I'm not. Well, because well, I'm gonna keep it here for now. But the next one's the Xbox 360, which is just a much better system, right? Uh, Xbox 360. I think Xbox 360 is still the first modern video game console. Like every video game console these days is still kind of just doing what the Xbox 360 did in terms of it's like kind of like you boot up, you don't just go to a game, you go to this elaborate menu, you have this very prominent online store, you have these very accessible online options, the friends lists, all this stuff. I know some of that peaked in with the original Xbox, but the infrastructure wasn't really made for it the same way it was with the 360. Even though there aren't like a ton of amazing exclusives necessary for the 360, there's a lot of games that are just also on PlayStation 3 or PC. The Xbox 360 was a really good way to play most of those. So this is where I played Red Dead Redemption and Bioshock and Mirror's Edge, right? All these like really fantastic games that I loved a lot. The problem though is like almost all those games you wouldn't ever want to actually play on a 360 again, right? Like if I want to play, if I want to play Mirror's Edge, I'll play it on PC or I'll play it on my Xbox Series X, which is like doing all this, frame rate boosting and whatnot. So do I really worry about that? I don't know. Hey, that's not entirely fair, but again, if I actually had to play on a real Xbox 360, like the frame rate was just bad for a lot of games back then. It was kind of a bummer. But like in my mind, like that first time I played Gears of War, I remember when Gears of War was the prettiest video game ever. There was that period of time. And I think it was also really a big deal how indie games kind of came onto their own the Xbox 360, right? And the whole kind of digital game store in general. But at first that was all these people who felt like they were making free games for PC or just Flash games can suddenly make real games and sell them on the 360. We got a lot of cool stuff from that, like Braid, like Castle Crashers, a lot of really good indie games starting out on the 360. Also, Elijah Wood was the host for that reveal of it on MTV. I remember that still. I played a lot of even the RPGs on here. I think I actually played Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas on my 360. The 1 versus 100 is really neat. It's a really cool system. It's a really cool system in a lot of ways. It's at least better than the Saturn. It is. Just some of that aging stuff on it, right? It's weird to say that the Xbox 360 in some ways feels like it's aged worse than the NES, but it has to me. It's got a good library though. It's messed up. I just don't know if I can say it's better than the NES. It's just messed up to me. I don't think I can. This seems. I also think that this seems low, but I just can't say it's better than the NES or the PlayStation One, Dreamcast. Saying it's not better than the Dreamcast, I have to admit, does sound kind of fucked up, doesn't it? But yet there I am. It really is just kind of. It really is the frame rate issue. If those frame rates were better in those games, but we know why they weren't, because it was the first time we were doing HD gaming really consistently, and so we were doing a lot of higher res textures and all polygons, all sort of things. So something had to give. So it was performance. Yeah. Uh, that what the whole yeah, and to be clear, the whole generation did struggle with that, including the PlayStation 3. PlayStation 3 had the same problems with frame rate, maybe even worse sometimes. And unlike the Xbox 360, it was also just worse than it in a lot of ways. Uh, it was much more cumbersome to use. Its UI wasn't nearly as good. Its online store was pretty bad. I remember downloading things on the PlayStation 3 took forever. It was way too expensive. They threw in that stupid 6-axis controller that had motion as a desperate plea to combat the Wii. There's a lot going against the PlayStation 3. It had some good exclusives though. Uncharted games are great. Uncharted 2 is one of my favorite games. I know I talk shit about The Last of Us sometimes, but that's a very good game, obviously. There are a lot of PlayStation 3 exclusives though that I don't particularly like as much as other people. Like a lot of people really like the Resistance games and the what's the superhero games? Infamous. That never really did that much for me. I think a lot of people agree with me about Kills. There aren't that many big Killzone fans, right? But they had to push that as this big deal. It's like, here's Killzone 3. All right, thank you. But then there was other cool stuff like Flower and Journey was really neat on there. Yeah, Chris, I remember we brought on Metal Gear Solid 4. I liked Metal Gear Solid 4 a lot. Even like Final Fantasy 13. I was an SOCOM guy or a MAG guy. Uh, yeah, if it's being tough to develop for. I think it's the new bottom one for now. I think I have to give the I think I have to give the original Xbox more respect than the PlayStation 3. Oh my god, that's right. As much as I liked Metal Gear Solid 4, it had that ridiculous thing where you had to install each chapter of the game and it would take forever. Man. Right, technically Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in that generation, which is weird, but those games never do too much for me. Like I didn't even I appreciate it for PlayStation 2 because they're really innovative, but by Grand Theft Auto 4, it's just not my thing. I played through Grand Theft Auto 5, like on Xbox One. I was like, yeah, it's nice. The Blu-ray player is nice about the PlayStation 3. You're right. But that's, features matter. They don't matter nearly as much as like games and game feel and that kind of thing. Again, it's not a bad system. It's not. I'm was happy to have a PlayStation 3. I played a lot of good games on it. I just don't think it's better than any of these other consoles. Okay. So that the Wii. Uh Man, Wii is weird. The Wii is weird. Because I mean, it sucked how bad the games looked on it, right? Like, 'cause we had the Xbox 360, and then a year later came the Wii, and it's like, okay, back to SD gaming we go. I mean, it was cool that it was backwards compatible with the GameCube, but that's basically because it was a GameCube, right? But when the motion stuff did work, and sometimes it did, it would be kind of cool. Like the Mario Galaxy games were great. Resident Evil 4 was actually really good with that, but that's pointer. Like, okay, great, pointer controls work. Well, you had the Wii Motion Plus. There was some cool stuff. I actually liked Skyward Sword quite a bit back when I played it on the Wii. Then there's just weird games that are just 2D side scrollers. Anyways, this is that time when I feel like Nintendo was just making a lot of 2D games again for no real reason. And not that 3D is inherently better than 2D, of course not. But it was kind of weird how many 2D games they were making again, right? Like, okay, we're not making a 3D Donkey Kong Country. It's Donkey Kong Country Returns, and it was good. So, okay, we're not making a 3D Wario game. Here's a 2D Wario game, and it was good. So, okay. Same thing with Kirby, right? But it felt less ambitious in a lot of ways. There wasn't a whole lot of ambition necessarily. There's like the ambition was with the gimmicks, and a lot of times they didn't work very well. But it still has some good games, and it has some weird hidden gems like I almost said Zack and Miri, but those are the people who made a porno. Zack and Wiki, excuse me. Boom Blocks, God. Yeah, it's just not a great system. It's not. It's Smash Brothers is one of the more forgettable ones. It's like Mario Kart is good, but yeah. It's just probably still better than the PlayStation 3. Not better. Not better than the Xbox. It's not. And I don't even like. I know some people are like, wow, Wii Sports. That's like so. Yeah, I liked Wii Sports at the time. I think it's weird if anybody ever talks about it being one of the best games of all time. That's bizarre to me. Like it's fun, but it's also very simple. It's very simple, and I realized that was part of its appeal. But come on. Well, I never really played Tatsunoko versus Capcom. That's not true, actually. I played the arcade version at Galloping Ghosts back when I went over the summer. It was fun. So yeah, the Wii is weird. It's Wii Sports is a pack-in title, and it was a good pack-in title. But some people act like it's some like I think I wasn't here, or yeah, was I not here when Jeff did like the best launch games or something, and Wii Sports got on there? I would have fought against that pretty heavily if I was there for that episode. Uh, okay, is that Xbox One next? Xbox was Wii U was first, huh? That's messed up. Wii U was first. Yeah, because these systems lasted a while. Yeah, Wii released first. Those systems had. I remember how weird it was how long the Wii, PlayStation 3, and 360 were around. Because it used to be that just about every console generation was 5 years exactly, and then that one went longer. It was like closer to 7 or 8 years. The Wii U obviously is not very good. It's just not very good. Look, it's the new bottom one. It is. It had a short lifespan. The tablet thing was like a decent idea, but it was really clumsy. Its range wasn't very good. It just felt like light and cheap to hold that tablet. Still has some good games. Like Mario 3D World, Mario Maker, the first Splatoon. It's like some important stuff there. I can't say it's better than the original Wii. Original Wii wins just from the Mario Galaxy games, probably. I don't know. And like all the good games just got ported over to Switch, anyways. I never played Xenoblade Chronicles X, so hopefully they remaster or remake that soon, so I can. I look Breath of the Wild technically a Wii U game, okay. I don't know. I just can't ever think of it like that. It had 3D World. 3D World is much better on Switch, though. It's much better on Switch. Like Bayonetta 2's good. Yeah, sure, that's fine, Matt. But yeah, you're right. But even then, I guess if we don't worry about the ports later. But I mean, I kind of dinged 360 about that a little bit. Like, yeah, I could just play these games now and they're better. Like, that's not really true with the NES. Like, actually, it's still somehow best to play those games on an original NES. That's weird, right? How the NES holds up better than, say, an Xbox 360 or a Wii U in that regard. See, I don't even like Tropical Freeze as much as some people. I think Tropical Freeze is a bit overrated. I like it fine. Am I gonna say like Star Fox Zero One Tropical Freeze? I better not. I better not say that. Yeah. Also, awful name, awful branding. Really, aesthetically, it's easily the worst console on this list. Aesthetically, like the Wii aesthetic was novel at the time. Like real simple, just basically looking like some Apple Store bullshit. And then they just did it again with the Wii U, and I was so over it. I thought it was really ugly. Like the box itself has zero charm to it. The only good thing was the Miiverse. The Miiverse was cool. I liked the Miiverse. I think we all liked the Miiverse. They didn't even really do enough with that. So yeah, it's not an awful system. It has its good points, but it's the worst. It's the worst one on here so far. Let's scroll down a little bit. Then what's Xbox One, the all-in-one. Oops. What did I do? Nope. Xbox One, the all-in-one entertainment system. I can almost talk about this on PlayStation 4 at the same time. They're so similar. with their faults and their strengths. Because both of these, Jeff talked about before, how both of these consoles were kind of made at a time when people were like, because mobile gaming was really big. Everyone's like, well, oh, maybe console gaming is done for. So they kind of didn't put their heart into it. But then, like, they came out and everybody actually bought them anyways. So they had to, like, make games for them after all. And then they did, they made good games. And then they, like, because they were so underpowered, they had to release better versions of both of them halfway through. That's why we have the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, right? That's why, like, that's when people always ask, "Oh, are we gonna get that for the new consoles this time?" I don't think they don't really understand that one of the reasons that happened is because the last generation started so weak. They kind of had to do that. Um, but like we still had a lot of good games for the Xbox One. The Ori games were great. We did have a lot of good games for this, right? Why am I not thinking of very many? I mean, like I'm trying to think of exclusives. It's kind of like a 360 Pro. It's just a lot of third party games again, like Red Dead Redemption 2, a port of Grand Theft Auto, like all of them were freaking Call of Duties. Oh man, were, were there any exclusives for this thing? There was Ori. The Ori games are good. Ah, I don't even like. Yeah, Sunset Overdrive wasn't bad. I'm not a giant fan of it. Did Game Pass really start on there? Crackdown. Crackdown is Xbox 360. There's Crackdown 3. Uh, yeah. Oh no. Yeah, Halo 4 is like. Oh, Halo 4 was Xbox 360. That's weird. We had Halo 5. Hey, Gamer Checks. Thanks for the raid. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Is this console not very good? It's weird because like I played it a lot and it was always fine. It did a good job of playing video games, I guess. It's not very good, is it? It's better than the Wii U still, I think. I'm sorry. Uh is it better than PlayStation 3? Yeah, Titanfall 1 was good. The Connect. It is hilarious how they launched it. You had to have it connect at first, and they dropped that real quick. Man, that alone, Wii U is not way better. No way. You guys are way too high on the Wii U. It did turn on and play video games. I mean, it was really popular. Yeah, there's just no way. And I'm trying to think if the Xbox. I still think the Xbox One may be better than the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 3 was so weird. Even though Xbox One is basically just getting by third party games. Look, pretty much every good video game from that era that like wasn't a Nintendo or PlayStation exclusives did come out on Xbox One and played pretty good on there. Played pretty good. Um, it's still better than a PlayStation 3. Come on, PlayStation 3 is weird. It's a weird system. Maybe it's not better than the Wii. I don't know. Yeah, it's not better than the Wii. I don't like the Wii. I don't like the Wii very much. I have like I have anti nostalgia for the Wii, which is weird. Like a lot of these other things I get nostalgia for over time, even the ones I like don't like that much. Like I have some nostalgia for the PlayStation 3. I have negative nostalgia for the Wii and the Wii U, to be clear. I don't want to see them. PlayStation did have Uncharted. I mean, did they run worse on PlayStation 4? What a weird generation. It's not better than the original Xbox, which again is weird. All right, we'll keep it here for now. The PlayStation 4 is better than, yeah, we all agree the PlayStation 4 is a lot better. I never even thought about how much better the PlayStation 4 was than the Xbox One until right now. It was weird. I think maybe I'm like just only realizing this because for some reason all of my friends and brothers vastly preferred the Xbox One to PlayStation 4. I remember at the time being kind of confused about it. Chris is maybe here. I don't know if he can explain himself. I think he just liked Xbox Live. And to be clear, that is something. Xbox Live was still much better. Like PlayStation 4's thing was a lot closer to being as good. Xbox Live was just easier to use than PlayStation Network. So that was something. But otherwise, PlayStation 4 had so many better exclusives. At least here. Yeah, it's Xbox Live and the controller. I think that's about it. Okay. PlayStation 4 has Uncharted 4, which is fantastic. God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man. There's a lot of really good exclusives actually. The Ratchet and Clank remake, Bloodborne, a lot of good exclusives on PlayStation 4. In fact, it's better than Sega 64. It's I know it seems messed up to say it's not better than the Sega Saturn. It's actually too messed up. I have to say it's better than Sega Saturn. It's not better than 360 because it was still kind of like weaker than it should have been. It felt pretty good. Ooh, Final Fantasy 7 remake. Final Fantasy remake's good. Actually, it's better than 360. Okay, man, PlayStation 4 is a lot better than the Xbox One. It's not better than the NES. I'm drawing the line there. This is way higher than I thought it was gonna be. Because there's no way it's better than the NES. But yeah, it has so many better exclusives than pretty much all these systems below it, right? And they like all basically worked. Last of Us Part 2, my favorite game. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep that there. I think that's fine. Okay. I should have a lot of older consoles towards the top here, but this might change that because I think Switch is actually next, right? Yeah, Switch is next. Switch, what a good system. I love the Switch. I mean, I'm still playing this thing constantly. I was just last night I was playing Metroid Prime Remastered and playing Theater Rhythm, and even as I'm like, hey, by the way, uh, oh yeah, the Switch is getting old. I got to replace it. I'm still playing it all the time and just having an amazing time with it. How is it still this good? So many just amazing games. Breath of the Wild, um, Mario Odyssey, Fire Emblem Houses, Smash Brothers Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which again is funny because it's a Wii U game. Uh, so many just good ports of games are like even on here. So many good RPGs. The NSO like retro consoles are actually in a really good state right now. It's definitely top 5. Uh, let me put here. I'm thinking it's better than the Genesis. A lot of good indie games. Metroid Dread. Better than PlayStation 2. It's better than the Super Nintendo. Um, I don't think I can. I don't. This is hard because the one thing it's losing out on with compared to the GameCube is charm, and it's losing out on that in a big way. Like the interface, very boring, right? Like we all complain how there's like no music playing when you're doing things, and it is. It's very bland. There's no themes or anything, right? The store sucks. The online stuff, like the friends, still kind of sucks. Granted, GameCube just doesn't have a lot of stuff because it was from before then, right? But like what it does have, like what that stuff still is great. Even when you do have to do that boot screen thing and you have to like just turn right and left and up and down on the cube, it feels good. Um, so yeah, I get it. GameCube is like it's a personal thing. GameCube store is just a GameStop, right? Yeah. So yeah, the Switch is great, but look, obviously I have a thing with the GameCube. I don't know, man. Is it messed up? Is it too much? Is my GameCube love going too far? Can I really say it's the best system ever? We'll get back to it once we finish off. We'll really think about this top. Let's which one of these came first? Let's just pick one. Actually, I think PlayStation 5 was first, right? I don't know. We'll say it was. Who knows? PlayStation 5. I think the PlayStation 5 has been really good so far. It's a little weird because we're kind of in the middle here. But I think this has been a really strong system so far. I think it's already had some very good exclusives, or in games that have also come out on PlayStation 4, but like still, like the Play 5 versions are obviously better and they're great. But the ones that are exclusive, even like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart's fantastic. Um, the games that came out both systems, I like Gran Turismo 7, I think more than most people even. God of War Ragnarok was very good. Miles Morales It was very good. Astrobots Player Room rules. Yeah. I like the controller a lot. I know it's a bit more controversial. I like the controller. I like the way the system looks a lot. It's the best looking system we have had in decades. It's the best looking system we've had since at least the Xbox 360, maybe even since the GameCube. I can't believe that they actually. I just love that they actually made a system that looks like something and isn't just a black box. God, I'm sick of the black boxes or the white boxes or what having. Yeah, I know. Again, like some people think it looks ugly. I love the way the PlayStation 5 looks. I think it looks amazing. I love that its whole kind of weird, like I don't know, uh, 70s sci-fi vibe to it. I love it. I love it. I love the curves. It's great. I'm so glad they did something a bit bold with it. It's very sleek. It's pretty. It's big, but I mean, Xbox Series X is big also. I don't mind being big. I got plenty of room. There's a discless version. I almost said dickless version, which I think is a Ghostbusters joke. Um, yeah. The UI is. I think that the UI is definitely better than it's been on a PlayStation console before. It's still kind of cumbersome in some weird ways, but generally pretty good. They finally fixed the thing where you don't have to plug your controller to update the firmware. That was a big problem. No, there's no way it's worse than a PlayStation 4. No. PlayStation 5 is better than PlayStation. Well, yeah, it is. I think it's already better than PlayStation 4, even though it doesn't have as many good games yet. But I just think its infrastructure is already a lot better. I think it already looks a lot better. I just like its vibe better already, and I feel pretty confident saying, like, even though I'm basing this off it now, I'm sure that when it's all said and done, it's gonna be pretty easy to say that's better than PlayStation 4. It already has a good library. It already has a lot of games to play. Maybe not quite as many as the 4. Granted, you can play all those games on your 5 anyways, but yeah, I sure that doesn't really count here. No, I just already like it. Sure, they came out both consoles, but they're a lot better on PlayStation 5. That's just how the stuff works now. I mean, it's true for Xbox Series X also. Yeah, like the backwards compatibility is really good. So that's a great feature. I like the DualSense controller. I like all its bullshit. Actually, the load times are very good. Yeah, I like the PlayStation 5. I'm a big fan of it. I wish there's things are better. I wish that the PlayStation Plus Classics was a lot more robust than it is, but something. So we'll do Xbox Series X and S together. I will say right now that I still hate this name. It's really boring and bland. Console itself, but the Series S kind of looks nice. Series X is just a box. It's better as far as boxes go. Thank you, Tacos better. But it is just a box. This is another weird one because it's a very powerful system, right? Its UI is pretty good. It's snappy. It's really suffering with exclusives, right? Just like the Xbox One did. It sure is suffering there. It's a giant problem. Right. The Series X is the best way to play a lot of games you can play in other places. It's got a very nice controller, even though they didn't do that much to it. Yeah. The best way to play a lot. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that stuff is good. I mean, it's better than the Xbox One for sure. I think it's better than the Wii. I think it's better than the original Xbox already, to be clear. I think it's better than Nintendo 64. Oh no. Just not a big Nintendo 64 guy. Game Pass. Yeah, Game Pass is great. I think Sega Saturn, I know, is kind of like me being a old man saying the Saturn is better than the Series XS. Series XS, that like this one, we do need more time because it really is still working on getting that library together. Where I feel like the PlayStation 5 already has a pretty good library of exclusives, at least, right? Like Series X and S is definitely struggling on that front. It'll hopefully get there. Yeah. But there's a lot to like about the Series X and S. You'll see a ride if we see the Saturn this time. I mean, look, it's like on the bottom half of the list still. It's on the bottom half still. It's not like it's that high. Quick resume's nice. I do like quick resume. Yeah, yeah. But still, I'm gonna keep it here. I think. Is that the last console that came out? Is that the last one? Let's think about this top. I've been thinking about it. GameCube staying at the top. I just love the GameCube. It's my boy. It's my Game Boy. I just love that console. No, we're not counting Steam Deck. That's really more of a PC, really, which is great. It's great. We can maybe talk about portables, but we're not even doing portables today. I think this is right, and I don't think anyone's shocked that the top is pretty Nintendo heavy. It's me. I obviously like Nintendo games a lot. I have a Nintendo podcast, right? Uh, Granted, the bottom game is a Nintendo console, or the bottom console is a Nintendo one, so that balances things out a little bit. Yeah. So, okay, let's read this. Number 1, GameCube. Number 2, Switch. Number 3, Super Nintendo. Number 4, PlayStation 2. Now, if I was to, I I could almost see saying the PlayStation 2 is better than the Super Nintendo. I could see that. Well, it's not. There's no portables on here, Chris. We're doing portables another time. TurboGrafx 16 gained the culture. I mean, look, what I would say if I did TurboGrafx 16, it would probably be under the PlayStation 3 and above the Wii U. Still, you still would be mad at me. I like the TurboGrafx 16, but it doesn't have like a ton of games, a ton of great games. It's a good system. I don't know. I probably need to play more. Okay, so I don't think I'm replaced. I'm not putting Super or PlayStation 2 above Super Nintendo. I could. Maybe a different day. It's been a while since I had a PlayStation 2 day. I haven't played some PlayStation 2 stuff in a bit. Maybe if I did, I would be even higher on it. So maybe it's something I need to do sometime. Let's check out some PS2 stuff. It's been a while. Sega Genesis is at number 5. Sega Dreamcast is at 6. I know it's going to be high for a lot of people. I loved the Dreamcast. I played to that thing constantly when it was out. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, look, I like Sega. I do. I like Sega systems. So I'm probably going to rate Sega stuff higher than other people will. Number 7 is the original PlayStation. Number 8 is the Nintendo Entertainment System. Number 9 is PlayStation 5. Number 10 is PlayStation 4. Number 11 is Xbox 360. I'm a little surprised I have the 360 under the PlayStation 4 when I really look at it. But it's just... Yeah, that's not right. I know, again, the frame rate thing's a bummer, but man, the 360 was really a big deal. I played a ton of that. Like, I have a lot more nostalgia for that than any of the other systems from that era. So I'm going to put 360 above PlayStation 4. I think that's better. So number 10 is Xbox 360. Number 11 is PlayStation 4. Number 12 is the Sega Saturn. All right, so a lot of people think it's nuts that the Saturn is above the Series X or S. Man, Saturn has a lot of better exclusives than the Series X and S does, though. It didn't last very long, but I don't know. Like, maybe it's a little bit nuts, but I like the Saturn. Saturn does rule. Yeah, you know what? Let's just say that. Let's just say actually the Sega Saturn rules, and it's number 12. Yeah, number 13 is Xbox Series X/S. Number 14 is the Nintendo 64. Number 15 is the original Xbox. 16 is the Wii. We're gonna scroll down. 17 is Xbox One. 18 is PlayStation 3. And 19 is Wii U. I wish that there was one more, so this was a list of 20. Maybe I will. I could just throw in the TurboGrafx, huh? Turbo Graph. Is this how you spelled that? I never had a Commodore 64. I don't know what they would say about it. Wasn't it like this? Wasn't it like one word, the TurboGrafx 16? TurboGrafx 16 has some cool games, though. The Atari. Yeah, see, now it's like you should include the Atari Jaguar for doing this. Like, it's too messy. We'll stick to these 4 console publishers. Graphics Dash X. Okay. Also, like TurboGrafx might actually even be higher than that. It was not a bad system. Let's just stick with these. We'll get a new system someday. It was a shmup powerhouse. I'm kind of discovering shmups more now lately. Uh, it's a constant genre I didn't play a whole lot of. Oh, it was just I was right. Okay, interesting. Keith Courage, that was the Pac-In game, right? Yeah, Keith Courage. But Bonk is great on there. Those pinball games are fantastic. Rondo of Blood, Legendary Axe, Splatterhouse. There's actually a lot of good TurboGrafx games. It's actually kind of messed up how good that system was. Okay, everyone. So that's the list. I'm sure you will all yell at me about different things, but I feel pretty good about this. Like yeah, obviously, it is more than literally just what are the good games on the systems. There's more to it than that. Some of it is like pretty like material stuff, like features, like the design of the console. Some of it is just like the feel of it, just what it means to me, stuff like that. Hey, look, AJ made it. Look, you see the list, AJ? Here we go. Scroll down for you. There you go. Yep. Yeah, that's the list, everybody. And hey, if you're watching on YouTube, this is where the video ends. So thanks a lot for watching. Well, let me know in the comments what you guys think is are your favorite consoles. Which one you think I'm completely wrong on? That's fine. It was all good fun. Hopefully Jeff will do this soon too, because I think it was another good exercise. All right, thank you everybody.